I finished law university, I have a law degree. Then I also did a real estate agency diploma. So my original plan was being a lawyer and having a real estate agency. When I flew in and watched the first game, I was on my phone, I was like, okay, when is the next flight going back? Because this is not going to work here. So the team was dead bad. We could find a group of people that you can actually work with. So we say, okay, we have to bring them into next season, make a few personal changes and then build from there. And this process has been a lot of fun. If you have to sacrifice something, for me, I'd rather sacrifice size, maybe age, maybe experience, but I don't want to sacrifice character, personality, work ethic.
欢迎收看《台篮吃瓜第一品牌》，我是你的主持人 Plusly 的英文主播 Ryan， 跟我一起来访问我们今天的贵宾是民视的英语新闻记者杨怡安 Stephanie。
Hi everyone, welcome to the show. Today we have a very special guest with us, the coach of the Ghost Hawks, Raoul Korner. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you very much.
Hey Coach, so the Ghost Hawks as a new team in the Plus League wanted to make some noise. You got off to a 1-3 start, but now have vaulted into second place and just concluded a really tough stretch of games. Now you can breathe a little bit. Hopefully we have a good conversation. Can you start by introducing yourself to our audience?
Well, ni hao. My name is Raoul Korner. I'm born and raised in Vienna, Austria. As you said, I have my first full season with the Ghost Hawks right now, and I'm very excited to finish up the season strong, and I'm also very excited to be with you guys here today.
I know you coached in several countries around the world, and this is your first stop in Taiwan. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's been so far and kind of your goals as the head coach?
Well, I mean, it's been a great experience so far. It's totally different from what I'm used to. I've coached for 25 years professionally right now. Started out in Austria, in my home country, and worked with the youth for many years. And then at the highest level in Europe, in Germany for 10 years in a very competitive league. And it's different. It's definitely different. The basketball is different. The culture is different. As a coach, you're not only responsible for basketball, it's also about leading a group of people, and every nationality has its special things, and every person had its special trigger point. So that's the biggest challenge for me to get used to the culture, at the same time to turning a program around, because the Ghost Hawks have not been successful last year, and there were a lot of things that needed to be changed. And my job is basically to change this and to install a winning culture into the club and make this sustainable, not just a one-time thing.
I'm really excited to get going. You know, before we dive into the basketball, I actually wanted to ask you more of the personal side. The first time, I believe, coaching outside of Europe. So what kind of personal sacrifices does that involve? But at the same time, what have you told your family and friends back home, and what have they given you in terms of feedback about what they see through the television or phone monitor when it comes to the Plus League basketball brand?
Well, first of all, what they see is great weather and excellent food. This is the main thing that they see, which is also what they envy me for. On the other hand, what am I giving up? I mean, every time you're away from home, you're giving up something. On the other hand, I've coached 11 years in my home country, and even there I was not in Vienna the whole time. And if you're a professional basketball coach, you cannot stay in Austria. In Austria is a smaller country. Austria is beautiful and wonderful, but basketball is not the main thing in Austria. So for me, it was clear as soon as I decided to become a professional basketball coach that I had to move abroad. And whether I coach in Holland or Germany or here in Taiwan, at the end of the day, it's away from home. The big difference here is that I don't understand the language. I cannot even read things. Sometimes that's a good thing. So whatever they write in the newspaper, whatever you guys say about me, I don't understand. And sometimes that's also a good thing for a coach, because you can really focus on like your team and what you want to do. But it's different. It takes adjustments, and of course it also takes sacrifice.
What would you say is the most memorable experience so far as a head coach?
Maybe I have to go back a little bit. I've been coaching basketball since I was 15 or 16 years old. So since you don't grow up in Austria as a potential basketball coach, I wanted to be a lawyer. So I studied law, and I finished law university. I have a law degree. Then I also did a real estate agency diploma. So my original plan was being a lawyer and having a real estate agency next to it or with it. But then when I was 25 years old, I got the offer of becoming head coach in the club that I was building up. So I built up the whole youth program there. And all the first division players there were suddenly in the first team. So they said, hey, listen, these are all your players. Why don't you take over? But I was younger than most of the players that I coached because I was 25 years old. So back then I was the youngest head coach in Europe at first division level. After doing this for 23 years and coaching national teams during the summer, it was like always a 12-month thing. So in 23 years, I do not remember having 1 week of vacation. So I really felt after 23 years, I need a break. And I wanted to take the whole year off. What I didn't know is that I couldn't. And then this call came up from my agent, and he was like, listen, there's a team in Taiwan that's looking for a head coach. Are you interested? And I was always interested in the Asian culture. I always told my agent, look for the Asian market. I want to get there. So they offered me this. I was like, listen, I'll do it. 2 months, or it was 2.5 months, maybe 3 months maximum. It's an adventure. Let's just do it, see what happens. So when I flew in, and now I'm coming to your question, sorry about the long answer. When I flew in and watched the first game, I was on my phone, I was like, okay, when is the next flight going back? Because this is not going to work here. So the team was that bad. And I was like, okay, how can you be competitive with this group? The good thing was that we had a break. So we had a little 2 or 3 week break for Chinese New Year last year, and we could make some changes on the roster and we could have some practices with the team. And the team developed. The guys wanted to learn, at least most of them. The guys who didn't want to learn are not here anymore. No? So we had to get rid of some players too, of course. There was a reason why the team lost. No? So we had to change some things, but it was so much fun to build something again, to be part of something changing and developing. That when they asked me if I wanted to extend my contract, I didn't hesitate. So I was very excited to build on what we started last season. We couldn't. The result didn't matter anymore. It was already, the season was over. No? But we could find a group of people that you can actually work with. So we say, okay, we'll bring them into next season, make a few personal changes, and then build from there. And this process has been a lot of fun.
One more question. What are some qualities that all successful teams that you have built over the years? And do you think Ghost Hawks have these qualities?
This is a very good question. Like, I've coached teams to 5 championships over my career, and it's not only the championship teams that are successful, it's also teams that overperform. For me, it's about a team is successful if at the end of the season it does better than what people would expect in the beginning of the season. So overperforming is the goal. And overperforming teams, from my experience, always have 3 things in common. Number 1, they're very, very disciplined. They have a high level of internal discipline. You don't have to find them. You don't have to motivate them from outside all the time. You don't have to worry about what they eat, if they go out before a game or not, about their off-court behaviors. So that's one thing. The second thing is that they have very, very strong internal leadership. So they have someone on the team who's your second voice, who controls the locker room a little bit. There's a lot of things you can do as a coach in terms of leadership, but if you don't have anybody on the team who takes ownership, you have a problem. And the third thing, all successful teams that I've coached had very good team chemistry. And team chemistry is created by personalities. And then it's my job as a coach to have very clear distribution of roles, and if players have clear roles that they are willing to fulfill, then you have good chemistry. And those 3 things, all successful teams that I've coached so far have in common.
Well, follow-up question is, do you think the Ghost Hawks have these qualities that you've mentioned?
We have everything to a certain degree, but not to the point where we need to be. Right? So this is something you cannot create internal leadership overnight. You cannot demand you be a leader. This is a process. You have to learn this. When I came here, I had the impression that the local players were just there to pass to the foreigners, get the hell out of the way, be quiet, and they do whatever they want to do. This is not the way I understand how a team should function, how basketball should be played. So we have a lot of areas where we have to develop. We made big steps from last year, but as I said, this is a process, and it's not about just winning here and now. It's about building an environment and building a team culture that allows you to be successful on a consistent level. So sustainability is the key word here, because when I leave this club, I want this club to be a winning organization. That they don't depend on me. You should never depend on single personnel, because players come and go, coaches come and go, but an environment, a certain winning mentality within a group and within an organization can remain, and that's the goal.
All right. Well, it sounds like you made quite an impression on the team and through that early stage of the process. I wanted to ask you, and we'll drill down on individuals as we go along, but was there players that stood out to you in terms of the way they came to work, their work ethic, and their attitude toward being a professional basketball player on this Ghost Hawks squad?
Last year, of course, I came prepared, so I watched a video on previous games. And I'll take Baisa now as an example. There were games where Baisa didn't even suit up. And for me, seeing this, I did not understand why. Same with the situation with Timmy last year. Every time he was out there, he actually did something good, but he just didn't have a role. So I felt like, okay, where are the players who could play my style of basketball and could have that type of work ethic that I need everybody to have? Who I can change in their role. And Baisa, I think, is the best example. He came from, 13th, 14th, 15th man into a starter and was one of our best players. You don't only need players who want to score 20 points. You don't only need players who need to play 30 minutes that they function. You also need this 13th, 14th, 15th man who knows he's not going to play much, maybe not going to play at all, who doesn't kill your locker room. I always like to have the analogy of a wristwatch. You have those pointers that everybody sees, but then you have those little wheels behind and the little mechanics behind that nobody sees. But if you take those out, the watch doesn't function anymore. And this is how a team works as well. Some things are shown to the outside and some things get the credit and some players don't, but they're just as important.
In terms of the imports, can you tell us a little bit about how you help them position in the best way? I know there's these imports. Can you tell us a little bit about how you kind of plan it and get them on court?
Players, no matter if they're locals or imports, always have to fit your playing style in a way. So with the local players, the market is very restricted, especially for a team in Tainan. That's something I've learned, that most players want to play in Taipei. Because of family tradition, and they just play there, and it's a big market and all this. That's something, it took me a while to understand this, because I feel like, hey, if you're a professional basketball player, you should be able to travel 1.5 hours by high-speed train to play somewhere else. That market is restricted, so we had to find the niches for the foreigners. What do we need from them? And our team does not have enough ball handling, so we said, okay, I understand that most of the teams have 3 or 4 big men. We can have that. We need a point guard. We need a ball handler, but we need a ball handler who also helps Mao to improve. And that's how Brandon came to my mind. I've played against him in Germany. He was with Bonn there, and he's that type of player who can play on and off the ball. And who does things that Mao is not good at, and Mao is good at things that Brandon is not good at, so they complement each other pretty good. Damon Brooks played for me already 3 years in Germany. We had a lot of success together. We made the playoffs with a team that was actually supposed to go down to second division. We made the playoffs. We made the top 8 in the Champions League together, so we had some great success. And for Damon, it's on one hand, he's a very good basketball player, but he's an even better person. And he's that guy that can help you in the locker room to keep players calm when things are stressed out, to cheer them up when heads are hanging down. He's undersized, I understand that, But if he was 10 centimeters taller, we wouldn't talk about him because he will play on a much higher level for much more money. So if you have to sacrifice something, for me, I'd rather sacrifice size, maybe age, maybe experience, but I don't want to sacrifice character, personality, work ethic. Nick is high energy, big guy, inside-outside guy, someone who's played 3 years for the same club in Italy, in a very, very good league in Europe. I've seen him play in Europe. He's that type of player who just functions in a league like this because it's a tough matchup.
Yeah, sometimes I call him the miracle worker. You don't expect it to go in and he puts it through anyways.
Yeah, sometimes that causes me headache as well. But he's a very skilled player. And as I say, he's very, very versatile. And he's one of those bigs that functions in Europe. In some leagues in Europe, this type of player functions extremely well. And I figured that this league would also be like this. Shiga was also someone who worked with me already. He has very high experience on high level. I mean, he played with Luka Doncic on the Slovenian national team. They won a European championship. The thing with Shiga is that he's not used to playing on a team where he's asked, okay, you get the ball, now you do something. And in Asia, sometimes people have to, or players have to create by themselves. But the club wanted some size on this position, and I know that he's a very, very good basketball player, very smart.
You talked about the free agency signing with local players, but I actually would like to counter that Jimmy Xie Zonglong is perhaps the free agent signing of this entire offseason across the basketball landscape here in Taiwan. Could you imagine the way the team has gone without a big man who grabs rebounds at near the top of Taiwan basketball efficiency in terms of grabbing rebounds? He's also finding his spots out there on the floor offensively, and he's done a brilliant job paired up with Frazier or the other guards. Can you describe your experience with Xie Zonglong this season?
So first about the signing, and this is a story that I haven't told anyone, so you get the first info about this. Ian, our GM, sent me a text message, and usually when he has players to look at, he just sends me a link to the player, and then I go on Synergy or do my research and just watch them play. And usually I watch hours and hours and hours, and then give him a detailed, hey, this is the reason why I think he could be interesting, or this is the reason why I don't think we need him. When I saw Jimmy, it took me 2 minutes to call Ian and said, let's get this guy. So get him, sign him. The big question for me was, can he play the 4? Because he was exclusively used as a 5-man, only as a roller, only under the basket. And for Taiwanese players, the 5 position is very, very difficult to play because you always have the foreigners there. And I just didn't see him survive against those physical 5s. And the big question there was okay, can I make him a 4? And so when I first met with Jimmy, I told him, listen, this is the plan. I'm going to turn you into a 4. And maybe, I don't know what he thought first, maybe he thought I was crazy or something, but I think it worked out pretty good. So that was one challenge. The other challenge was that Jimmy's self-confidence was very, very low. He came from a situation where he never played. He told me that he was not allowed to make mistakes. Whenever he made a mistake, everybody was on him. So he felt intimidated, and you could tell, like, whenever he made a mistake, his head went down. He looked at me. He said, "Jimmy, don't look at me. Like, making mistakes is part of the game, right? So hey, just play." Being a perfectionist sometimes is not great for professional athletes. So always tell players, don't try to be perfect. Try to be great.
Let me follow up with a question, because in Taiwan, we love for guard play to be elevated. Obviously, from a physical standpoint, the players might be on the shorter side on the international basketball scene. And this player in particular has gone through highs and some of the lower periods as well, as a professional in particular. And that name I'm thinking is Gu Mao. And the reason I bring him up is because there's been some expectation placed on him. And I think, as you might agree, there's still more for him to grow, and there's also more that the fans can gravitate toward this kid who's not a kid anymore, but I still think that he could still have an astounding attraction for the basketball fan base. Then that might be even some guy that free agents and other players would see and say, I want to play with that guy, and might even make whatever team he's on that much of an attraction. Can you describe your relationship and the growth of Gu Mao and what projections you might have for him?
Absolutely. So when I came to the team last year, Mao was basically a backup of another local player, and I think he was held back a little bit in his position. The thing with Mao is that he has a very, very high motor, and he has a high motor. He works hard. He always has a smile on his face. That's something you gotta love as a coach. So now it's about sometimes taking the foot off the gas pedal for him. So for him, sometimes it's important to slow down. He's so fast, and sometimes he's too fast for himself, too fast for his teammates. With Mao, it's about reading the game better, and this is some deficiency that I can see with many local guards here, that their ability to read the game, to understand not every open shot is a good shot. Not going 100% is not the right thing all the time. And there was a lot that he had to learn. There still is a lot that he has to learn. He has a very specific profile as a player. The first thing I did with him was say, hey, who's your favorite NBA player? And I don't remember who he said, but he came up with a player who's totally different from him. He said, Mao, it's nice that you have him as favorite player, but watching him is not going to help you. Like, he's 6'4", he can shoot the hell out of the ball and he will bully guys to the basket. That's not your profile. You're a paint-breaking point guard who's excellent in breaking the paint. You're not a great shooter yet. The shot is getting better, but teams tend to give you the shot more than the drive. And I gave him a name. I told him TJ Shorts. This is the player I want you to watch. So I gave him video on this player. TJ Shorts, a player who I know from Germany. Same size as Mao, same speed, lefty. Not a great shooter, but hey, great paint breaker, high energy, and he's one of the top players. He was MVP in Champions League. He was MVP in Eurocup next year. Now he's one of the candidates for MVP in EuroLeague. So although he's small, he has the same profile of player, and this is the type that I want him to see. Say, listen, size doesn't matter. You have this motor, you have this energy, you have this ability and will to learn. There's no limit. There's no limit. But you have to understand your profile and play accordingly. And he's made big progress. We still have a long way to go. But with his personality and with his openness to learn, I have no doubt that he's going to be well, he already is one of the best point guards in this league. I think he can be the best point guard in this league.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining our program. Stephanie, is there maybe one quick thing you want to ask about Coach Korner before we head off?
What are the characteristics of the Sungong University Stadium?
Oh, the stadium.
And what are the fans like?
I mean, it's last year we played in a much smaller gym. This year coming out here, it feels more like a basketball arena. It doesn't feel like a gym anymore. It's an arena. So I think for us as an organization, it's a big step. You have a university here, so you can bring students in. You have a better access because you have the train station here. You have more parking availability. I just really hope that through the way that we play and through the way that the team is, because I think it's a fun team to watch, that we will bring more and more people in and get fans excited about basketball in Tainan. Because basketball is not only played in Taipei, it's also played down here in the south, and we will do everything we can to get people excited and to make sure that everybody who comes to watch us once will come every time.
Wow, I think that's a great way to conclude and a great way to shout out the fans coming through the turnstiles and also the TSG Corporation for making the move over and having significant upgrades to the arena. I think it's really obvious that it's a great place to watch a basketball game, and the Ghost Hawks have been really proving some doubters from the beginning of the season, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes. We wish you the best of luck, Coach.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
好，谢谢大家收看这一集的台篮吃瓜第一品牌，我们下次再见。